Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on the Iron Phase series by Julie Kagawa. The Iron King is book 1 in the Iron Phase series by Julie Kagawa. Megan Chase is not the popular girl at school. She's always felt different. After a series of strange occurrences right before her 16th birthday, Megan is taken away to a magical world of fairies after her little brother is kidnapped and replaced with an evil changeling. It doesn't take long for the different fairy kingdoms to learn of her arrival, and she becomes the target of everyone. But Megan will do anything to rescue her brother, even if that means making unsavory deals with friends and enemies alike, discovering her mysterious origins along the way. So yeah, that is the plot to this first book in the series. Before I do head into my thoughts and feelings on this entire series consisting of 4 books, I definitely don't plan on having any type of spoilers in this review. I'm going to just kind of talk as broadly and as general about this series as best I can. So yeah, that being said, this series consists of 4 books. So yeah, the first book that I was just talking about, it is called The Iron King. And then book 2, The Iron Daughter. Book 3, The Iron Queen. And book 4, The Iron Knight. And my understanding is that there are 2 other spin-offs to this series, but I definitely do not intend on getting into the other spin-off series, unfortunately. Even though at the end of the day, because I initially did have some major issues with this series at the beginning, but weirdly enough, this is the type of series that as I progressed through each book, I started kind of just having a lot more fun with it, and I started finding it a little bit more enjoyable. So yeah, by the time I ended book 4, I was pretty well in love with the characters and the world and whatnot. But still, even though I started enjoying this series a lot more, I still was kind of thinking to myself, I'm still just not going to bother getting into the other spin-off series, you know. The way book 4 ends, it's like it ends in a satisfactory manner. I don't really need any more, you know. I don't need no more. I'm not craving any more. I'm not craving like, oh my god, what's going on with this character, you know. So yeah, I was perfectly fine just ending at book 4, and yeah, I'm definitely not going to continue into the other series. So some background with how I even kind of got in to this series to begin with, because this is a fairly old young adult series. Yeah, when I first started BookTube, because I believe I started back in 2013 if I'm not mistaken, when I first discovered BookTube and started making my channel and discovering other channels, I primarily was subscribed to a bunch of people who really only focused on young adult fiction in their videos and whatnot. So as I was starting my channel, I was kind of getting highly influenced by the types of books that maybe I should not have really been getting, if that makes sense. So the thing is though, when I first heard about this series through BookTube, the big thing that kind of appealed to me about this series, people kept saying, oh, there's fairies, it's very loosely based on A Midsummer Night's Dream. Let me repeat that. It is very loose. I don't even know if very loose is the right term. I mean, there's really nothing. It's just some character names that are taken more than anything. But yeah, fairies, Midsummer Night's Dream, that was all key words that were kind of calling out to me that I was like, oh, okay, I want to give this a shot. So as you can see, I finally got around to reading this series here in 2022, and I got these, I think, way back in 2013. They have been sitting on my shelves since 2013, and naturally, my tastes have grown and developed over time. I definitely prefer adult fiction. I prefer historical fiction, mysteries, thrillers, things like that, you know, and young adult is definitely more at the bottom of my favorite genres. I do like young adult. I like exploring that genre every so often. I love things like Twilight and Hunger Games, you know. But yeah, young adult is definitely more at the bottom end of my favorite genres. And yeah, unfortunately, my interest in this series definitely fell. You know, I was like, oh, why did I waste getting these books? I just really don't have any interest in them anymore. But yeah, they were on my shelves. I still wanted to read them, see how they went, and I did. I got them at a used bookstore anyway. It's not like I was massively losing out on any type of money, you know. But still, let me kind of start here, because the start of this video is going to be rather negative. Like I said, I did at the end of the day still really quite like this series. I oddly started falling in love with it, and I enjoyed it ultimately at the end of the day. But yeah, I had an extremely rough time getting into this series, you guys. The first two books especially. There were things that I found just very flat about this series. I found the characters to be very flat. I found the plot to be flat. The world building, you know, this is a fantasy world. It's supposed to be, you know, whimsical and exotic and colorful and vibrant, and I just felt like I wasn't getting anything, you know? So I initially struggled with the first two books in this series, and I found things to be kind of rather dull, and yeah, the word flat is the big thing I want to kind of just keep expressing. Just no personality to anything, if that makes sense. No personality to the characters or the plot or the world building, and everything just felt rather cliche and just nothing unique or different, you know? So yeah, I was having a pretty rough time with the first two books. And I think by the time I got around to book 3, I started kind of being like, okay, let me just lighten up. You know, let me lighten up. Let me not take this series so seriously. Let me just have fun with it. And I feel like once I allowed myself to do that, starting with book 3, I ended up having a lot more fun with the series. And yeah, I really loved book 3. And then yeah, book 4, I absolutely loved book 4, you guys. I think book 4 is my absolute favorite in the series. But yeah, once I allowed myself to just be a lot more fun and light with it and really enjoy it and go for the ride, you know, that allowed me to experience the story in a different way and whatnot. And I think too, it was just the better writing as well. I think, I mean, I hate to sit and just bash authors, you know. I really hate to bash authors, because people who write, you know, they write because they're passionate about it, they have a story they want to tell, and writing is hard work, you know. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of concentration, and you really have to work on it day after day, you know. And so I hate bashing authors, but I just don't think the writing for these first two books were very good. Like I said, everything was just so flat and monotonous and nothing colorful or vibrant about it, you know. And like I said, that's the characters, that's the plot, it's the world building. Just nothing really stood out to me. But I feel like the writing, Julie Kagawa, her writing definitely just really matured, and I think she definitely got a lot more comfortable with the writing and comfortable with the characters and the plot and the world building, and I think that showed by book 3. So moving on from some of that, kind of just getting into the major characters. For a story that takes place in a fantasy world, because some of it does take place in the real world, but for the most part, a lot of it takes place in a fantasy world. For a world that is in a fantasy world, there's really not a hell of a lot of characters, which is kind of bizarre. You know, I'm used to like the Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and stuff like that, where there's just an overabundance of characters, and I feel like there's not really too many characters in here, which I guess makes it easier to follow. But yeah, as far as characters go, you have Megan Chase. Megan is just a normal 16-year-old girl. She's in high school. Unfortunately, she is being terribly bullied. This first book has some really truly horrible scenes of bullying from her peers. So you definitely sympathize with her from the get-go. And yeah, Megan, her little brother, who's actually her half-brother, because you find out that her father has been missing for quite a number of years. What's up with that? You do get some answers about that over the course of all 4 books, you guys. Thank God, because I thought I was like, oh God, Julie Kagawa totally forgot about her dad. Where'd he go? So Megan, her little stepbrother, he gets kidnapped by a bunch of fairies, and this is how Megan is brought into the world of fairy, how she is introduced to it. Because she had no idea any of this existed until her little brother got kidnapped, and then she is all of a sudden flown into this world of magic and whimsy and fairies, you know, good fairies, bad fairies. Yeah, these ruling kingdoms. You have the summer court, the winter court. Yeah, this big, huge, crazy wooded area and whatnot. So Megan is thrown into all of this, and lo and behold, it's a young adult book, you guys. She finds out some origins about herself, and she ends up discovering fairly early in this first book that she is actually the daughter of King Oberon, who, if you've read Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, King Oberon is king of the fairies, and he has his wife Titania. She is actually the daughter of King Oberon of the fairies. So Megan finds out that she is half human, half fae, which brings a lot of interesting things to her character and whatnot, new things she has to deal with. I really liked Megan as a character because she starts off as very shy and she's bullied, but yeah, finding out she's half fae, finding out where she comes from, and then she's going on this really insane mission to try and rescue her kidnapped brother. She starts to discover and find out new things about herself and realize she's far more capable than she's ever realized. And she's able to kind of lead and take charge of things, and she knows what her strengths are, and she also knows what her weaknesses are, which is good. It's always nice to have a heroine who knows what she's good at and what she's not good at, because I hate when you have young adult characters and it's like they try to do too much, and it's like, okay, you're not good at this, let somebody else do it. So I really liked Megan as a character. Like I said, I did find her rather flat in the first two books, and sometimes I did find her uninteresting, but I think once she does gain a better footing of herself and who she is and her newfound determination and her strengths and whatnot, she does become a lot more of an interesting character by book 3, I think, and kind of some of the new responsibilities that she has to manage and handle. So yeah, Megan is our main character. She has her very best friend named Puck. Yes, Puck, Robin Goodfellow from Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream as well. He is a character. Puck is the most lovable, instantly lovable character in this entire series. There's definitely some unrequited feelings there between Puck and Megan. Of course, it's young adult. There's unrequited feelings. Yeah, Puck, he's the prankster, the trickster. He definitely has a lot of the kind of more comedic moments of this entire series. Then you also have Prince Ash, who is Prince of the Winter Court. The Winter Court, which is really dark, brooding, serious, icy. So yeah, of course his character comes across that way as well. But of course, once again, young adult, of course Megan's gonna go after the dark brooding character. And you have your love triangle right there. Once again, Ash was also a really flat, uninteresting character. It literally takes until book 4 for anything to kind of really get going with his character and for you to even understand his character. That's why I say book 4 is my absolute favorite in the series, because it is entirely Ash's point of view, is all I'll kind of say about that, because I don't want to get into spoilers. But yeah, book 4 is all Ash's point of view, and you finally get to understand why is he so cold, why is he so stubborn, why is he just so blank and dead about everything, you know? Yeah, it's like, why does Megan like this guy, you know? I want to know why she likes this guy. I think it takes until book 4 that you're like, okay, I see it now. And then there's your supporting cast of characters. And one of my personal favorite supporting cast is this talking cat. His name is Grimalkin, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm a cat lover. I love all things with cats. If the cat can talk, even better. Grimalkin is almost kind of like the equivalent of the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. I freaking loved this talking cat. I wish Julie Kagawa, you know, if she did write a spin-off series and it was just entirely the cat, I would totally purchase it in a heartbeat. That's how much I love the cat. So yeah, in general, this series is fine. You know, it's okay. For me personally, each book got slowly better and better until kind of get into that 4th book, and I weirdly enough quite immensely enjoyed book 4. I can't believe how much I enjoyed book 4, you guys. It's kind of bizarre, just the total shift of how I felt with this first book and then how I felt with that fourth book. It's not crazy, awesome, amazing literature by any means, but it's still fun for what it is, you know? Just kind of be aware that it might be rather slow going, a little bit monotonous, a little bit dull in places, but I think it's kind of worth it. I would recommend this series if you do love young adult literature, especially kind of from this time period, like I said, because I think this was wrote during the early 2010s, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're kind of into that time period for young adult fiction, you will probably really like this and enjoy it. I do think, unfortunately, this series is a rather forgettable series at the end of the day. Like 100 years from now, for instance, 100 years from now, people are probably still going to know what Twilight is. People are probably still going to know what Hunger Games is. You know, future generations of young adults will probably be reading those books. I don't anticipate the future young adults in 100 years from now, I don't anticipate them being like, oh, hey, you remember, I've heard about that Iron Phase series, let me go pick it up. I do think, unfortunately, this is going to be a very forgettable series, you know? That's just the nature of how books work. You're going to have books that are remembered, and that's how books become classics. You know, that's how books are remembered over the decades, because just depending on how people are picking up those books, you know. So I don't think this is going to be a very rememberable series, unfortunately, which is sad. You know, it's kind of sad. It makes you sad when you think about books in that way. You know, when you think about, oh, what's going to be the popular books of now, you know, that will remain popular in the future. So, you guys, that is it for my, I don't know. I felt like I didn't really entirely cover everything that I wanted to cover with this review. It's hard to talk about a series sometimes, because it's like, well, what do I focus on? How do I focus on what do I want to focus on exactly without going into spoilers? Because you never want to sit and go into spoilers and accidentally spoil something from like a book later in the series. But yeah, overall this was a fine, okay series. I'm glad I finally got around to it, since it's been on my shelves for a very long time. But yeah, has anybody else read this series? Maybe you loved it more than I did, just let me know. Yeah, does anybody plan on reading this sometime in the future? Just let me know that as well. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.